Ladies and gentlemen, this next segment of the podcast is brought to you by the Heritage Foundation. For over 50 years, the Heritage Foundation has been America's outpost in Washington, fighting against the D.C. federal bureaucracy and working to secure a future that allows Americans to flourish. You see, for too long, conservative principles have been ignored by many of the very leaders claiming to fight for America. But the Heritage Foundation is proud to hold our leaders accountable and stand up for America's founding principles, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Here, our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Well, you probably heard by now, there is a new pope. You probably heard he's the first American pope in the history of the Catholic Church. All of that is true. This is not an area of my expertise, and that doesn't matter. Let's see. The prospect seemed unthinkable at one point, writes Breitbart. His name was Cardinal Prevost, I should say, Robert Francis Prevost. He chose the name Pope Leo XIV in succession with Pope Leo XIII, who most famously penned the encyclical Rerum Novarum, which condemned socialism. They write. Breitbart News noted in 2019, it came at a time when the world faced multiple questions about the nature of labor in the midst of industrial revolution. Okay, well, it's a little in the weeds for me, I'm afraid. Now, he was born September 14, 1955. That's my month. I'm September, Mr. Producer. He's 2 years older than I. He was born in Chicago, Illinois. He could have a 20-plus year papacy if he lives into his 80s. His clerical life began in 1977 when he entered the, how do you pronounce this, Rich? You're Catholic. Novitate? You don't know. All right. Of the Order of St. Augustine, before taking his solemn vows in 1981, he became an ordained priest in 1982. Over the next several decades, he spent time in both the United States and Peru before Pope Francis appointed him apostolic administrator of the Diocese of the Chicago Leo, Peru in 2014. He's been a cardinal for only 2 years. Some say his mentor was Pope Francis, and he may have a same ideological approach, but maybe not. It says here, according to various accounts, he holds similar views to his predecessor, Pope Francis, with some differences on contentious issues, per the College of Cardinals report. Well, what does the College of Cardinals report say? Breitbart quotes it. On key topics, Cardinal Prevost says little, but some of his positions are known. He is reportedly very close to Francis's vision regarding the environment, outreach to poor and migrants, and meeting people where they are. He said last year the bishop is not supposed to be a little prince sitting in his kingdom. He supported Pope Francis's change in pastoral practice to allow divorced and civilly remarried Catholics to receive Holy Communion. Prevost appears somewhat less favorable, carrying favor to the LGBTQ lobby than Francis, but he showed mild support for something I can't pronounce. As Bishop of Chicago, Leo, I guess that's Chicagoland, among other... No, that's not actually. He also opposed a government plan for teaching gender theory in schools. The promotion of gender ideology is confusing because it seeks to create genders that don't exist, he told a local news media. According to the New York Times, Prevost faced some controversy while Bishop of Chicago when handling the investigation. Look, I'm not going to get into all this. The guy is a clean slate. It's only a matter of time. People will make their own conclusion, but it is exciting. Even for me, I'm not Catholic, but it's still exciting that we have a Pope from the United States, and hopefully things will work out very well. The one Pope I know a whole lot about was John Paul II. He was a truly, truly great man. He was an anti-communist. He was on the conservative side, if not conservative. The Russians tried to assassinate him. He worked very closely with President Reagan, Prime Minister Thatcher, Helmut Kohl, Germany, and he helped lay the groundwork for the overthrow of the communist regime in Poland. Lech Walesa as well. The Catholic Church had a major role in that. This is what I think, and not just the Catholic Church, but other churches, the Jewish organizations too. This is where they're best. Where they stand up to tyranny, where they stand up to these despots, whether they be Marxist, fascist, or Islamist. This is where I think they have the best impact. And they understand that both Christianity and Judaism and Islam, in certain respects, that is, not the radical terrorist Islams, but people who practice Islam and are very decent human beings and so forth, that all of us should be speaking out against the forces of terrorism, communism, fascism, and autocracy. Because, of course, they target religion, they target faith, they target the ability to even practice your faith. And in the case of the Islamists, they want to murder anybody who doesn't practice the way they insist that things should be practiced. So I hope, what do I know? But I hope this cardinal is more sort of along the lines of John Paul II, who I think will be a historic figure for as long as there is mankind. I really believe that. And his contribution to liberty and democracy and humanity is really incredible. And of course I say that as a Jew, but why shouldn't I? Just incredible. All right, I can't add a lot to this, but I wanted to start off with it because I know it's important. It's certainly important to a lot of people. So Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost is now the first American Pope in the history of the Catholic Church. Nobody expected it, I don't think. All right, now back to my wheelhouse. Also from our friends at Breitbart, FBI investigating mortgage fraud claims against New York Attorney General Letitia James. Writes Amy Furr, the Federal Bureau of Investigation is in fact reportedly opening a criminal investigation, or has, into New York Attorney General Letitia James, who's targeted President Donald Trump regarding alleged mortgage fraud. Looks like an open and shut case, as far as I'm concerned. But what do I know? A lot. This is something I know a lot about. Let's go to the New York Post. The investigation, first reported by the Albany Times-Union, follows a request that the Justice Department investigate James, sent by Federal Housing Finance Agency Director William Pulte to the Justice Department last month. New York's Northern District, where Pulte's referral was steered, is led by U.S. Attorney John Sacrone III, an ally of President Trump. Well, mortgage fraud, first of all, you don't appoint U.S. attorneys who aren't at least known to the president. That's number one. They're political appointments. And number two, this was an obvious case. By the way, Pulte, I wonder if that's Pulte Holmes, if that guy's. Representative Elise Stefanik, I love this lady. I think, in fact, she'd be a great president. And I have her on my show Saturday night. Elise Stefanik on Life, Liberty, and Levin Saturday. Now, Stefanik, who represents the district where the investigations were initiated, commended the FBI and Albany prosecutors. He said the investigation into Letitia James is a vital step toward justice. I will continue to fight to expose New York corruption, protect constitutional rights, and hold these failed Democrat leaders in New York accountable. You know, she is fearless. Stefanik is really fearless. Now, Pulte's letter alleged James falsified records to obtain favorable loans on a home she purchased in 2023. This is while she's going after Trump. In Virginia, and a Brooklyn brownstone she's owned since 2001. The Democrat also allegedly indicated the Virginia home would be her, quote-unquote, this is from the filing, her principal residence, while acting as New York's top cop, and that she misrepresented the number of units in her Brooklyn residence. She said there were 4, there are 5. Ms. James, for both properties listed above, appears to have falsified records in order to meet certain lending requirements and receive favorable loan terms, Pulte told Attorney General Pam Bondi. Can amount to criminal charges, including wire fraud, mail fraud, bank fraud, false statements to a financial institution, among other things, Pulte added, and they ought to throw the book at her. They ought to throw all the books at her. In fact, they ought to hit her over the head with all the books, as far as I'm concerned. She's a fraud, a phony, and a fool. She's abused the justice system for political purposes, and here she is, flat out, allegedly, reportedly, but it looks like undeniably, a crook. A simple, pathetic crook. The FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office in Albany didn't immediately return requests for comments, but I'll give mine nonetheless. She's previously dismissed the allegations as baseless and claimed the referral was part of a revenge tour by the president. Oh, yeah, revenge tour. He told you to file false mortgage documents? Is your residence in Virginia? Is your daddy your husband? Do you have 5 units in that brownstone or 4? That's simple. She famously professed no one is above the law when she launched her investigation into President Trump. Outrageous. A fraud case where there was no fraud. Statute that's never been used. Hey, but what the hell? Due process for illegal alien, MS-13, wife-beating, human traffickers, but not Donald Trump. The AG's office has retained high-powered attorney Abby David Lowell. Now, Abby Lowell was Hunter Biden's lawyer. Did a fantastic job, didn't he, Mr. Producer? That just tells me she's guilty as hell. Not because she is a lawyer, but because she is Abby Lowell. He only takes cases where clients are guilty as hell. He was retained by the Attorney General's office. Wait a minute. Rather than James in her personal capacity, according to a Times Union report, which means New York taxpayers will eventually foot the bill for his services. Now, why would New York taxpayers have to pay for her lawyer involving criminal charges having nothing to do with her office and everything to do with her enriching herself, Mr. Producer? Why are the New York taxpayers on the bill for Letitia James? Democrats in Albany are expected to sign off on a provision creating a $10 million slush fund state officials can tap to cover any reasonable attorney's fees and expenses incurred, including for probes not directly related to their employment. James plans to rely on both state funds and a private legal defense fund to fight the battle. That sounds like welfare to me, legal welfare, does it not? That's legal welfare, paid for by the taxpayers and also buying influence. People contributing to a private legal defense fund, that's buying influence. This is unethical in every respect because she is. Because she is. Last month, America First Legal, one of the great firms out there, filed a complaint against James with the New York State Unified Court Systems Committee on Professional Standards, which oversees disciplinary matters for lawyers licensed in the state. Of course, I'm sure that's loaded with left-wing kooks. If Ms. James is engaged in fraud by deceiving her lenders and the government to obtain financial benefits she would otherwise not be entitled to, then she is engaged in professional misconduct, violated her obligations as a lawyer, and is subject to discipline by the New York Bar, said the letter by AFL sent about 2 weeks ago. Oh, Letitia, we hardly knew you. Oh, yes. I wonder when she goes to prison with that XXX large orange suit. I wonder when she goes to prison if she'll use the Democrat line that women are men and women and everything in between. I wonder what kind of prison she and her lawyer will demand that she serve her time in. Really, I wonder. Could be interesting. And I hope she has a lot of cigarettes, too, because as I understand it, she likes to chow down, and you can trade cigarettes, for an extra muffin or maybe an egg. Oh, yeah. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, the first 100-plus days of the Trump presidency has been astonishing, and the Heritage Foundation has been keeping track. Americans were sick and tired of the status quo in Washington, D.C., and that had led to a border crisis and an erosion of family life in America. They sent President Trump back to Washington with a mandate to restore American greatness. And the good news is that America's back. Now, if you want to see exactly how he did it, go to heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/Levin. To get your free list of Trump's 100 wins in 100 days. The Heritage Foundation has been counting wins in the first 100 days since President Trump's new administration took office. And I'm sure you can name many of those wins, from taking steps to secure our border to cutting government waste. But the Heritage Foundation has a comprehensive list of the top 100 wins so far. So go to heritage.org/Levin and get your list. That's heritage.org/Levin. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump put all these tariffs in place across the board with virtually every country, maybe every country, as far as I know, friend, ally, and transitioning. I got to thinking about it. It goes against my grain, as a free market conservative. I said, what is all this? And then I got to thinking, wait a minute. The White House may not be explaining it the way I think about it, but here's what I see as a reality. I'm very practical. We've got countries that have enormous tariffs on our country as a general matter, and on our products specifically in some other countries. And what Trump says is, okay, I'm going to put tariffs on every country that puts these tariffs on us. Reciprocity. You lower your tariffs, we will lower ours. You eliminate them, we will eliminate ours. I thought to myself, what is this man doing? And I wish free market conservatives like me would understand what he's doing. He is creating the most open market system in modern world history. Not in all of world history, before there was this whole notion of capitalism or Marxism. I'm not going to get into all that. I'm talking about now, in modern global history. By driving down the tariffs in other countries, and then he reduces the tariff he put on their countries, which obviously it's not just a matter of a level playing field. You're opening markets. You're engaging in actual trade. And he's doing the same thing with countries that are heavily subsidizing their businesses to the detriment of us. So tariffs to the detriment of the United States, subsidies by other countries to their businesses to the detriment of the United States. He said, okay, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. You back off, we'll back off. Britain's the first one, more to come, and so we're going to have the freest global trade economy in modern history. And I want to tell you about this British deal, which is a big deal, in one moment. Folks, if you're like me, you've been closely watching President Trump's first 100 days, watching as he fulfills his campaign promises and the mandate he was given by the American people. And I'm happy to report that the Heritage Foundation identified 100 of President Trump's biggest wins for Americans in his first 100 days in office. Now, if you go to heritage.org/Levin today, that's heritage.org/Levin, you can get your free copy of the Heritage Foundation's list of Trump's 100 wins in 100 days. Everyone knows some of what he's done, from securing the border to protecting women and girls in sports. But you have to see the full list of what his administration has accomplished in only 100 days. It's truly astonishing. I've seen this list. You need to go see it too. Go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. Get your free copy of 100 wins in 100 days. That's heritage.org/Levin. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
This is the nation's town hall meeting, and you can join in at 877-381-3811.
Okay, let me hit the highlights of this trade deal with Britain. On the White House fact sheet, they would know best. It will significantly expand U.S. market access. These ads drive me nuts. Come on, get out of there. Get out of there. I guess not. All right, let me move this. Sorry, folks. It will significantly expand U.S. market access to the United Kingdom. And by the way, they have the 6th largest economy in the world. What else will it do? Creating $5 billion opportunity for new exports for U.S. farmers, ranchers, and producers. It includes more than $700 million in ethanol exports, $250 million in other agricultural products like beef. We haven't been able to sell any beef into Britain, as a matter of fact. It commits the countries to work together to enhance industrial and agricultural market access. It closes loopholes and increases U.S. firms' competitiveness in the U.K.'s procurement market. It ensures streamlined custom procedures for U.S. export. It establishes high standard commitments in the area of intellectual property, labor, and environment. It maximizes the competitiveness and secures the supply chain of U.S. aerospace manufacturers through preferential access to high-quality UK aerospace components. Creates a secure supply chain for some pharmaceutical products. And here's the thing. Apparently the UK, unknown to the president, certainly unknown to me, has a very big tech market. They're on Silicon Valley, if you will. And so we will have access to that, and they will have access to our markets. Other things that aren't on this list that I read elsewhere, for instance, will be our ability to sell at least 100,000 and perhaps more automobiles into Britain, which we have been unable to do, as well as steel and aluminum and so forth. And we're going to have apparently some joint ventures in different industrial areas as well. Now, this is all to the good. And there's others coming. You're going to see Japan. That'll be huge. And some of the other countries as well. South Korea, that'll be huge. So I guess what bothers me, doesn't the president deserve a little bit of a pat on the back here? I mean, I'm as tough as anybody else on all these people, but a little pat on the back? You know, I'm not an ideologue. I believe in a philosophy. There's a difference. An ideologue is somebody who believes in X and that's it. Even when reason, experience, logic tells you, get off the mark, they don't get off the mark. And so that's Marxism, as an example. That's Islamism, as an example. We constitutional conservatives, we believe in prudence. Prudence is a principle. And prudence tells you to use your best judgment. The Burkean trusteeship, we all believe that Burke had a significant role in what we consider modern-day conservatism. And I remember as a kid reading about the Burkean trusteeship. And what is that? It's named after Edmund Burke, who was an Irish citizen of Britain, a member of their parliament, and a big-time supporter of the American Revolution, even though a big-time opponent of the French Revolution, and he was right. The American Revolution was a revolution for representative government. The French Revolution was like a Marxist revolution to destroy their society. Our revolutionaries didn't want to destroy our society. They wanted to defend it, but they wanted some say in how the government works. That for another day, even though we've talked about it over the decades. And so the bottom line is, we believe in a philosophy, not in an ideology. Prudence is part of it. And so when you get information as a human being that causes you to reason something in a different direction or something of that sort, it doesn't mean you destroy your principles, eternal truths, unalienable rights, and so forth. We're talking about the approach to advancing these eternal principles and liberties and rights. There's a difference. We're not ideologues. We believe in a philosophy. We believe in principles. And we believe in prudence. In other words, we have a brain for a reason. We have the ability to reason for a reason. Experience matters. The Burkean trusteeship, just as a side point, and to just give it a summation, a brief summation, is for if you represent, say you're a congressman and you represent your people, obviously, in your district, you want to take into consideration what their views are. You want to take into consideration what their views are. But you were elected as their representative to make decisions. So that's part of what you take into consideration, as well as your own knowledge, experience, and thought processes. In other words, today, even in modern times, we don't say, what do you think? Press the button and you vote, and so the majority wins. We don't want that, because sometimes the majority is wrong, because our rights are unalienable. We don't get our rights from a majority. We don't get our rights from other people. We don't get our rights from government. We get them from God. And so on earth, what we try to do is use those tools God gave his children, human beings, to make the right decisions. And sometimes the collective of the public doesn't make the right decision. Many times they do make the right decision. But the bottom line is not majority rule for all purposes. The bottom line is the ability for the individual to exercise their own judgment. We have a Bill of Rights for a reason. The Bill of Rights doesn't say your neighbor gets to vote on whether or not you have a right to have a gun. It says you have a right to have a gun. Right? Your neighbors don't get to decide if you have free speech. You have free speech. That's why I reject this whole idea of populism and how stupid it is. Populism in the 1870s was socialism, just so you understand. And in many ways, the populists today sound like socialists, don't they? They sound like Bernie Sanders and AOC. Big pharma. Big oil. Big ag. Big this. Big that. What do they sound like? I personally don't care how big a business is, how small a business is, whether it's in between big, small, whatever those definitions mean. I don't care. They produce services and goods that people want, or they'd be out of business as long as they're not subsidized by the federal government. And one of the reasons we have big businesses, not the only reason, is because sometimes you need an enormous amount of capital to do things, like to do research on drugs. Small pharma doesn't have enough capital to do R&D. There is no such thing as small pharma. That's why small pharma doesn't have the capacity to invest billions of dollars hoping to find some kind of a cure for some horrific disease or illness and then come up empty. Big pharmaceutical companies have that capacity. I'm not a special pleader for them. I'm explaining it. That's why oil companies, even independent, so-called small oil companies, have to be big enough to suffer losses. Because every time you drill a well, it doesn't come up with oil. Or gas, for that matter. It just doesn't. So you have to have a certain capacity, a certain capital base to make investments. And some parts of our economy, some of the industries that have developed over time need a lot of capital. And so they're not going to get them if they're running a neighborhood store. Doesn't even make any sense. Most of you shop at Walmart. That's a damn big company. Good. And they provide a lot of services, products, at very good prices for you. That's why you shop at Walmart, right? But you also like to shop at the neighborhood store. That's good, too. It's called competition. It's okay. But the fact that Walmart is big doesn't make it bad. It means it's successful because of you. So these so-called populists / socialists who talk like Marxists, big. And what else I find interesting about them, apart from their insanity on national security and foreign policy, I'm sticking to domestic, is they talk like the Marxists and the socialists about class warfare. They talk like them. And some of them are very earnest. They are. Some of them are senators and congressmen who you might like. But more and more they talk like them. Remember, I had one of them on the show. I'm not going to embarrass him. He's a dear friend. And he was doing big this and big farm. Remember what I said to him, Mr. Badu? You sound like Bernie Sanders. One of my dearest friends. You sound like Bernie Sanders. What happened to you? What are you talking like that for? Meanwhile, look at government. Now, one of the areas we rely on government to do its job, which it monopolizes, is air traffic control. And now we learn that for the last 30 years, we've had that antiquated air traffic control system that doesn't function properly. Yet we have millions and millions of people, tens of millions of people who are flying every year relying on the FAA. Poor Sean Duffy has to deal with this. I'm going to have him on Life, Liberty, and Levin on Sunday to talk about this. And to talk about Schumer and the Democrats and Buttigieg and what they failed to do and what they covered up. But that's Sunday. For now. And so we should give the government more power? Why? Why is it thought that politicians, just people who get elected by mostly lying to you, and bureaucrats, people who get jobs who you don't know, you know nothing about them, are more righteous, are more prudential, more intelligent, more expert than the rest of us? In fact, that's counterintuitive. Bureaucrats aren't in any type of a competitive situation. And all this talk about the early Marxists about let's have an expert class. This massive bureaucracy that they talked about. They're not experts. Most of them are protected by the civil service and their unions. What are they experts at? No, they have to hire federal contractors to give them the information that they say they want. But in any event, you understand what I'm saying, Mr. Baduzzi. You've heard me say it over the years. It's very, very important to understand who we are. We're not populists. We don't believe in majority rule all the time because one day we're not in the majority and we still have our free speech rights, our unalienable rights, our right to a gun. Due process for we, the American people, equal protection. Our rights have nothing to do with the popular will. Our economy. I find it very interesting that the populists, they talk about populism when they're promoting central governmentism. It's very weird. That's why I love to debate these people if they'll debate me. Most of them won't. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, the first 100-plus days of the Trump presidency has been astonishing, and the Heritage Foundation has been keeping track. Americans were sick and tired of the status quo in Washington, D.C., and that had led to a border crisis and an erosion of family life in America. They sent President Trump back to Washington with a mandate to restore American greatness. And the good news is that America's back. Now, if you want to see exactly how he did it, go to heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/Levin. To get your free list of Trump's 100 wins in 100 days. The Heritage Foundation has been counting wins in the first 100 days since President Trump's new administration took office. And I'm sure you can name many of those wins, from taking steps to secure our border to cutting government waste. But the Heritage Foundation has a comprehensive list of the top 100 wins so far. So go to heritage.org/Levin and get your list. That's heritage.org/Levin. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. You know, Judge Jeanine Pirro is a good friend. She's fantastic. She's just been appointed the interim United States Attorney for the District of Columbia. And I don't have any better pick than her. I really don't. All of you New Yorkers, you know her well. In fact, the whole nation knows her well. So congratulations to our friend Janine Pirro. Really, just fantastic. When the good ones get in, we like to be celebrating that. I want you to do me a favor, you a favor, all of us a favor. We have Mother's Day this Sunday. But whether we have Mother's Day or not, there's always something going on the weekends. Those of you who have smart TVs, or maybe not smart TVs, just DVR systems on your TV, go ahead, if you would, and record. Set the recording on your TV for Life, Liberty, and Levin, 8 p.m. Eastern Time Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday. These are very important shows. We spend a lot of time on the show. That's not why you should watch, but we spend a lot of time on the show to try and bring you new, different, important, relevant information. I don't bring on clowns, although that could be fun. I don't bring on dancers. I don't bring on singers. I don't bring on actors and actresses, although maybe I should, but I don't. But we still have a lot of fun. It's very entertaining. It's substantive. It's informative. I bump into people all the time who thank me for what we're doing. So as long as you're watching, we'll keep doing it. If you stop watching, well, then I'll stop doing it. But go ahead and download the DVR. It's for weekends like this. Mother's Day on Sunday. Hey, we're going to celebrate Mother's Day, too. We're going to go out to dinner. Mother's Day on Sunday. There'll be Father's Day a few weeks after that, and other events going on the weekends when you're with your family. It could be sporting events. It could be church or synagogue. It could be anything. So go ahead and set the DVR while it's in front of mine, while we're talking about it. And I'm encouraging as many of you as possible to go ahead and do that. Just set it. And then you don't have to set it again. Not just once, set it for good. 8 p.m. Eastern Time Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday. Now on Saturday's show, we're going to have Elise Stefanik. She is a superstar. And Katie Pavlich. She is a superstar. These are two of the smartest people, not just women, people I know. And I think down the road, Stefanik is presidential material, and there's a lot of talk about her wanting to run for governor of New York. I think she's going to do it, and we talk about that too. Sunday show is another blockbuster. We have Senator Ted Cruz and Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy. And Sean Duffy has a lot of things he wants to tell you about the FAA and how it got into the condition it's in today. So these are two great shows, Saturday and Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Set your DVR. Watch us live, too, if you can. And we'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, we take calls at the bottom of the last hour, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Did you set your DVRs? Come on, promise me you're going to do it. It's not hard. 8 p.m. Saturday, 8 p.m. Sunday, Eastern Time, Fox, Life, Liberty, and Levin. Also, don't forget, you can listen to this show anywhere, anytime. Anywhere, anytime. You go to youtube.com at Mark Levin Show, or better yet, just search Mark Levin Show on YouTube. We are there. Or search Mark Levin Show on your favorite podcast platform. It's all free, obviously. And if we're preempted, or somebody drops an hour, or somebody does this, or somebody does that, we love our affiliates, but we want you to hear the show. And so that's how you do it. We're very lucky to have the affiliates we have, satellite, that we have, all the live streaming, all the stations owned by different companies. It's a remarkable syndication, all these different companies that air this program because of you, because you want to listen to it. Now, We're going to have Senator Tom Cotton on the program in about 15 minutes. And we're doing that because it's important. There's a piece here in the Jewish Insider. He and Senator Graham held a press event today, and it was a very important press conference by Emily Jacobs. Senators Lindsey Graham and Tom Cotton are cautioning that the Senate will not deliver President Donald Trump the 67 votes he needs to ratify a nuclear agreement with Iran if that deal does not require the complete dismantlement of Tehran's current program. And it should, of course. The senators issued the warning during a press conference at the Capitol today, promoting the resolution affirming that the only acceptable outcome of U.S. nuclear talks with Iran would be the total dismantlement of its enrichment program. Now, look, folks, this has been the position of President Trump since his first administration when he ripped up the Obama deal. And I should know, because he ripped it up at his New Jersey club, where I and others have been invited. And I think I've been to that club twice in my entire life. It's a great honor. It's a great privilege. It's a lot of fun. The food is unbelievable, by the way. It's a golf club in New Jersey, among other things. And unbeknownst to me, it was a Sunday, and people were gathering downstairs. I was minding my own business, and he says, Mark, come with me. Mark, come with me. So I come with the president downstairs, and they are taping a statement he's making. And I had no idea what he was going to say. And what did he say? He said he was pulling out of this Obama deal. And he said why? Because it would give Iran nuclear weapons on a date certain. And there's no way Iran should have a nuclear weapon. That's always been his position. And he signed it. And I think I mentioned this the other day. Didn't I, Mr. Producer? And I'm standing with the other. He says, Mark, come over here. And he hands me the pen, which we framed and I handed to my stepson, David Milstein, who works for the ambassador, the great ambassador, Mike Huckabee, in Israel. Now, that's his position. That's been his position. Now, I know there are whisperers out there. I see Tulsi Gabbard had an interview with, who was it? Megyn Kelly. And there she is talking about the neocons want to rush to war. We want diplomacy. I have an idea, Tulsi. Why don't you stop attacking conservatives and attack Iran? We're not aiming nuclear missiles at anybody. We make up a huge percentage of the MAGA base, a huge percentage of the Trump voters. I know. They're all in my audience. So rather than attacking us and calling us names and telling us that we want to rush to war, which are all lies, why don't you attack the Iranians and what they're doing and what they've done to American troops? Killed them through surrogates. They want the nuclear missiles. They want the nuclear warheads. They talk about death to America. Focus your vial on them, not on us, and stop using that pejorative for Jews, neocons. And Megan, straighten her out next time she does it. Straighten her out. Anyway, that's a side point. And so this is a very interesting point by Senators Graham and Cotton, and they're certainly not alone. If you're going to make some kind of a nuclear deal with Iran, that is a treaty. It's not what Obama did to skirt the treaty clause of the Constitution because he couldn't get the 67 votes he needed. He made a deal in violation of the Constitution's treaty clause. And Republicans went along with him, like this fool from Tennessee. I forget the guy's name. Bob something or other, who was head of the Foreign Affairs Committee. What a disgrace, a disaster. And so they changed the rules. So in other words, you needed a supermajority of senators to vote against this deal rather than a treaty where you need 67 votes to ratify this deal. They're not going to get 67 votes if this is some weak deal. If they go on and on about civil energy. It was just broken by Fox, a story that they found another nuclear site in Iran. Another nuclear site. This is the problem. Oh, no, we only want it for domestic energy. Nobody believes that. Nobody. You don't have to be an intelligence expert. You don't have to be that intelligent to know. That's a joke. That's a lie. I don't want to hear about civil energy anymore. I don't want to hear about nuclear power for their people, who they hate, who they beat, who they rape, who they imprisoned. It's a lie. So at least let's be honest. If it is the position of the fifth column isolationists, the whisperers, if it's their position that Iran can get a nuclear weapon, just say it. Say it. Have enough guts to stand on your position. Don't keep lying. We're not stupid. Mr. and Mrs. America are actually quite smart. It's that simple. And so these senators are saying, if there's some deal that's cut, it better be a damn good deal. Some magical deal where, for the first time ever, terrorists, and these terrorists are actually going to comply with a piece of paper. And we'll be monitoring this as well, as you can imagine. I am concerned about a terrorist enemy doing 9/11 all over again, but killing millions of people. That's what I'm concerned about. Avoiding 9/11 times 1,000. And yes, I make no apologies. We have an ally. It's called Israel. They're not dragging us into any war. They've never dragged us into any war. They fight with their own soldiers, their own pilots, their own sailors. All they ask for is the material help to defend themselves. They don't attack anybody. They defend themselves. It's an ally. That's what you do. You help an ally like the ally helps us. That's how it works. Oh, yes, Bob Corker. Bob Corker. That's right. Thank you, honey. My wife handed me that note. She actually listens to this show. It's very cool. Anyway, so Senator Bob Corker of Tennessee, he cut this deal with Obama, which undermined the Constitution and the treaty clause. So any agreement with Iran, a nuclear agreement, needs to go through the Senate. We can't have secret deals like Obama did. We can't have... Do you know why the treaty clause is there? Those of us who actually read the debates in Philadelphia, you know why the treaty clause is there? Because they felt, our geniuses, our framers, that if you're going to make a deal, if you're going to make an agreement with a foreign power that is significant, that affects the country's national security and its well-being and its economic conditions, you have to have more than a president involved in it. You need the full body politic. So it's not even a majority vote for a treaty. It's a supermajority vote, 67 votes. Now, those of you who say you're tired of globalism and all the rest, this is the counter to globalism. This is Americanism right here. When we come back, scheduled is Senator Tom Cotton. He can explain what they're proposing better than I. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Don't get suckered into the same old free phone game by Big Wireless that comes with a lot of fine print, like requiring you to sign up for 4 lines plus activation fees, plus. And the end of the day, you've paid for that free phone 3 times over. Pure Talk is my sponsor, my wireless company. They have a much better offer. With a qualifying plan of just $35 a month, you can get a brand new Samsung Galaxy A26 for free. Now, this phone is virtually indestructible. Gorilla Glass captures beautiful wide-angle photos with next-generation camera lenses. All you need to do is switch to Pure Talk. For just $35 a month, you get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, more than you'll ever need, with mobile hotspot, all on one of America's most dependable 5G networks. Go to puretalk.com/Levin to make the switch. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plan when you switch to Pure Talk. Wireless by Americans for Americans. All right, we have our friend Senator Tom Cotton with us. Senator Cotton, thank you for being with us. So you and Lindsey Graham and many others really in the Senate, the Republican side, what is it that you're communicating to the American people and to the administration with respect to these discussions with Iran?
Hey, Mark, it's great to be back on with you. You know, today is the 7th anniversary of President Trump withdrawing from the disastrous nuclear deal that Barack Obama cut with Iran. And the reason, Mark, it was so disastrous, as Prime Minister Netanyahu said, is that it didn't block Iran's path to a bomb. It paved Iran's path to a bomb by leaving them with a vast nuclear infrastructure, most importantly, centrifuges to enrich uranium. And I know there's some debate about levels of enrichment, but the simple fact is, if you can enrich uranium at all, ultimately you can enrich it to weapons grade and make nuclear weapons. That's why President Trump, in one of the most important and best decisions he made in his first term, withdrew from that deal, and why he has been perfectly clear time and time again that Iran to totally dismantle its nuclear program. If they want to do that, if they want to turn over all their highly enriched uranium and turn over all their centrifuges, at that point, he's willing to talk to them about the potential for civilian nuclear power. But as long as they have that path to a nuclear weapon, President Trump has made it clear there's not going to be a deal, and if necessary, there will be bombing. That's not my words, that's his words.
Now, you say they've made it clear, and I have to be honest, Senator, I'm reading different accounts. I don't know if they're leaks. I don't know if they're official. I don't know if they're unofficial, that are confounding, quite frankly. Is there a tug of war going on somewhere there in the administration? I mean, are we really laying down the law, as far as you're told or you know, to Iran about dismantling its nuclear weapons program?
So Mark, I can tell you that in my conversations with the president, he has said exactly what he has said publicly: complete and total dismantlement. That there's nothing else that can be done to ensure that Iran does not get a nuclear weapon. And in my conversations with the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of State and the CIA director and the special envoy, they've all been clear that that's the president's objective, and that's what they're working on. I can't vouch for every single person who might be posing as an anonymous source, you know, grinding ideological axes because they're opposed to what the president is doing. But ultimately, advisors advise and the president decides. And I have no reason to believe that Donald Trump has changed his mind one bit on this. Mark, the very first conversation I ever had with him 10 years ago, he was a new candidate, and I was fighting against the Obama nuclear deal, and he called me because he was going to be in Arkansas for a state party dinner. And he thanked me for what I was doing to fight that deal, and he said that they've got to totally dismantle their program, and he's really never changed on that.
What do you make of these reports in Breitbart and others, some of the Israeli papers and even our papers, that the administration has decided to cut out Netanyahu and the Israeli government, and they were caught by surprise about the Houthis and that sort of thing? Do you know, or maybe you don't, is there any accuracy in that?
Not that I've seen, Mark. As you would observe, whenever we talk about the fake news here and leaks from people with ideological axes to grind against Donald Trump, we have to multiply it by at least 2 when you add in the Israeli side of that, because as you know, there's also an Israeli deep state. And there are plenty of people in Jerusalem who have axes to grind against Benjamin Netanyahu and who want him to fail. So I have not seen or heard of anything like that. I'm not sure where that news is coming from or who the sources are, but everything I've seen suggests that, as usual with President Trump, as it was throughout the first term, that we are coordinating very closely with the government of Israel.
Well, I hope so, because my understanding when I was in Israel was that the ceasefire with the Houthis did catch them 100% by surprise. Now, that doesn't mean we're required to tell the Israelis everything, obviously. But I certainly hope that's the case, because they have to live in that neighborhood. And you've been one of the greatest defenders of American national security and the national security of our allies, especially Israel in the Middle East and so forth. So let's talk about this treaty notion. You and Senator Graham say that's the process the president should follow when he has a deal. Can you explain that?
Well, for any president on any matter, the surest way to have long-term durability is to have a vote in the United States Senate. This is a point we made in 2015. We made it to the Ayatollahs when Barack Obama was trying to push through his incredibly weak deal that under our system, any president could reverse that, as happened when Donald Trump took office. Now, I don't know what the Ayatollahs are thinking right now, but if they want a durable deal that completely dismantles their nuclear weapons program, that's their best option. Could we get 67 votes for that? Well, the reason we couldn't get 67 votes for Barack Obama's deal, in fact, we got a bipartisan majority against it to include the Democratic leader Chuck Schumer, is it was a weak and controversial deal. As Donald Trump has said, he's not going to accept such a deal. He's not going to accept a JCPOA 2.0. So any deal he puts forward will, by definition, be a strong deal that satisfies what most elected officials have called for 15 years on Iran's nuclear program. Now, the Democrats may cut off their nose to spite their face just because it's Donald Trump's proposal, but that would be the surest way to have long-term durability on any agreement that completely dismantles Iran's nuclear program.
You know, Senator, from a constitutional perspective, having nothing even to do with this deal, should there be a deal, it has bothered me a lot that the treaty clause is basically ignored. When our country, whoever the president is, enters into an agreement with another country that is a significant agreement, whether it's significant economic agreement or whether it's a significant, especially national security agreement, the framers, they told us in Philadelphia at the Constitutional Convention, the body politic should be involved. And so they decided not just a majority, but a super-duper majority of the senators, 67, needed to vote on a treaty. What do you think that, apart from whether it should be lasting and so forth, what do you think about the lack of the use of the treaty clause to involve you and some of the other senators?
Mark, it's a bad trend in U.S. governance going back many, many decades, especially on highly consequential matters. You know, there's a reason most arms controls agreements during the Cold War were marked by a treaty, because there are a few things that are more consequential and deserve more widespread political support in our constitutional structure than any kind of agreement about matters of war and peace. So I do think it'd be better if we got back to more commonly submitting those highly consequential matters to the Senate for votes.
I just have a few more questions. If we can hold you over just a few more minutes when we come back. We're with Senator Tom Cotton, one of the great senators, quite frankly. We'll be right back. Don't get suckered into the same old free phone game by Big Wireless that comes with a lot of fine print, like requiring you to sign up for 4 lines plus activation fees, plus. And the end of the day, you've paid for that free phone 3 times over. Pure Talk is my sponsor, my wireless company. They have a much better offer. With a qualifying plan of just $35 a month, you can get a brand new Samsung Galaxy A26 for free. Now, this phone is virtually indestructible. Gorilla Glass captures beautiful wide-angle photos with next-generation camera lenses. All you need to do is switch to Pure Talk. For just $35 a month, you get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, more than you'll ever need, with mobile hotspot, all on one of America's most dependable 5G networks. Go to puretalk.com/Levin to make the switch. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plan when you switch to Pure Talk. Wireless by Americans for Americans.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
Well, here with Senator Tom Cotton, one of the best of the senators. Senator, your view, I see Ted Cruz came out today and he says Iran doesn't need a domestic nuclear program. He's very solid on this. Lindsey Graham, other. Do you find that a majority of the Republican senators share your view and Graham's and Cruz's view?
Oh, very much, Mark. No, the Republican Senate, and for that matter, I believe the Republican House is strongly behind President Trump's view that Iran has no need for uranium enrichment. They have no need for all those centrifuges. Certainly no need for civilian nuclear power. Dozens of countries around the world have civilian nuclear power, and import enriched uranium at a low level for those reactors under very safe and verified protocols. The only reason they have that vast infrastructure is because they want to ultimately build a nuclear weapon. So the vast majority of all Republican senators, and as I say, I suspect all Republican congressmen, is that Iran can't be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. And for that matter, Mark, there's Democrats that will say that as well. Now, they may not say it very loudly, but quietly they'll say it as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, the quiet voices are useless. I'm just being honest with you. Let me ask you this, Senator. Now, in this, do we mean a majority, as far as you can tell, of the Republicans in Congress will insist that their nuclear program, their nuclear weapons program, be dismantled?
Yes. Yeah, exactly what President Trump said as recently as his interview on Meet the Press on Sunday, total dismantlement. It's not keeping a certain number of centrifuges in place. It's not downblending their uranium and keeping that uranium in place. It's ending it all. Not only do they have no need for all those centrifuges and all that uranium, Mark, they certainly don't need it to be buried under mountains. I'm not aware of many nuclear power plants or civilian research programs that are buried dozens of meters under mountains. That's, again, done solely because Iran is afraid that the United States and Israel one day would be pushed to the brink of having to eliminate those sites militarily. And Donald Trump, again, has been very clear that he's willing to do that. I mean, in his own way, George Bush or other Republican presidents might say something like, well, we'd like to have a deal, but if we don't, all options are going to be on the table. As you know, President Trump is much more blunt than that. He'll say we're either going to have a good deal or there's going to be bombing.
What is the sense, again, if you can tell, on Capitol Hill among Republicans? Do they really think that the Iranian regime, which has invested so much in this and is very weak in terms of the people of Iran that would love nothing more to overthrow it, do Republicans on Capitol Hill think, putting aside Donald Trump, I'm just talking about Iran, that they would, even in the face of potential military action, would on their own divest themselves of all this nuclear development materials?
Mark, I personally am skeptical, to doubtful about that. Iran has never indicated a willingness to dismantle and turn over all of its centrifuges and uranium. That was the main sticking point with Barack Obama. And his selling point in the end became, well, it's either this bad deal or war, which, again, is a straw man argument. But I've never seen their willingness. That said, I think it is safe to say that the Ayatollahs, who ultimately care more than anything about their own preservation, are more scared of Donald Trump than they were of Barack Obama or certainly Joe Biden. I think they live in mortal terror of strong Republican presidents like Donald Trump and Ronald Reagan. If you recall, Ronald Reagan in 1987 and 1988 sank half of Iran's navy. That didn't lead to some kind of so-called endless war, forever war. It led to peace. Not only peace in the Persian Gulf, where Iran stopped mining the Gulf, which was hitting American flag tankers and ultimately a naval ship, but it also led to peace in the Iran-Iraq war, which had been waged for 8 years. Because, again, the Ayatollahs were living in mortal fear of Ronald Reagan. I do think, because Donald Trump is back in office, and they know that they tried to assassinate Donald Trump, and Donald Trump knows that they tried to assassinate him, that it is at least worth the effort, and that's what President Trump is trying to do, to see if they've had, let's say, an attitude adjustment from their past behavior and past convictions about keeping their nuclear program.
Now, you're right here, because I see at this event that Cruz was at, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, was there too, says exactly what you say, what Lindsey Graham says. There must be complete dismantlement, period. And there's apparently a letter that's being circulated among Republicans in the House and the Senate that reinforce that point. Is that correct too?
I believe that's true, Mark. I don't know if it's been released yet, so I think they're still collecting signatures, so I don't want to get ahead of them. But no, I do believe that Republican senators and congressmen both
somebody leaked it. I'm just reading
make these points to circulate to defend President Trump's viewpoints, his consistently stated viewpoints, and to show that it has widespread, near unanimous support, frankly, among Republicans in the House and in the Senate.
which is they either dismantle or we will have to take military action to dismantle for them. Is that the bottom line?
I think the way President Trump put it is they can have a deal and live happily without death. Otherwise, there will be bombing.
No, just, okay. Well, he puts it better than any of us. Senator Tom Cotton, I want to thank you for your service in the military, your service in Congress, and your leadership. God bless you, my friend.
Thanks very much, Mark. I appreciate you.
All right, you too. You take care of yourself. Well, that's the position of the Republican Party. Looks like the official position of the overwhelming majority of Republicans in the Senate and the House, which is not the position of the fifth column isolationists, who believe that if Iran gets a nuclear weapon, so be it, and don't drag us into a war. I still don't understand what they mean by that, since the war would be fought mostly by the Israelis on their behalf and our behalf, with a supporting role by the United States. And this would once and for all, if it came to that, get rid of this scourge, so that our children and grandchildren and future generations don't have this dark cloud of nuclear Armageddon hanging over our heads every time the Iranians make a threat. And they're not Marxists, and they're not fascists. They're Islamists. Their whole mindset is different. They are a death cult. They live for death. They live for the next life. And they believe God tells them to rid them and him of us. Now, that's a big problem when people like that have nuclear weapons and can spread nuclear technology and can give it to terrorists and can give it to other terror nations. I don't understand why this is debatable. I don't understand why this is controversial, except for the fifth column isolationist ideologues who are as moronic and insane and un-American as is imaginable. As is imaginable. Again, I don't know if these are people who are receiving money directly or indirectly from individuals or groups that have this mindset. Some of them probably. Some of them are just ignorant. Or who knows? Some of them are just plain bigots. For some reason, it's Israel's fault. Israel stopped Iraq from getting a nuclear weapon. They stopped Syria from getting a nuclear weapon. We haven't stopped anybody from getting a nuclear weapon, sadly. And we've only used diplomacy. We've only talked, and it's failed. It failed with North Korea. It failed with Pakistan. Now, there is a big difference. Donald Trump is the commander-in-chief and president of the United States. And we are, all of us, relying on what he is saying, relying on his good judgment. But there are some people who are trying to persuade him otherwise. I mean, Gabbard, to call anybody with 2 eyes and 20/20 vision who sees what Iran is doing, to attack us, to call us names rather than the enemy that's trying to get nukes and intercontinental ballistic missiles and aim them at the United States. That is bizarre. It's simply bizarre. Nobody's talking about a rush to military action. What we're talking about is they don't disarm, then we have to disarm them. That's the president's position. That's the position of the president of the United States from his first term. Is he a neocon too? Whatever the hell that means. But you know, sloganeering is the tactic of the Marxists. Sloganeering is the tactic of the Islamist. Sloganeering is a substitute for rational, substantive debate and discussion. And when somebody is sloganeering or other people are sloganeering, normally I dismiss them, but when they're in a position of enormous power, I'm concerned about it. I'm not interested in sloganeering. I'm not interested in deceiving the public and the American people. Just lay it out. Lay it out, baby. Lay it out so we can all decide. And send it to the Senate as a treaty so the entire country can debate it and make a decision and our representatives can be involved in it. That's what this republic is all about on an issue like this. That's what the republic is all about. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Don't get suckered into the same old free phone game by Big Wireless that comes with a lot of fine print, like requiring you to sign up for 4 lines plus activation fees, plus. And the end of the day, you've paid for that free phone 3 times over. Pure Talk is my sponsor, my wireless company. They have a much better offer. With a qualifying plan of just $35 a month, you can get a brand new Samsung Galaxy A26 for free. Now, this phone is virtually indestructible. Gorilla Glass captures beautiful wide-angle photos with next-generation camera lenses. All you need to do is switch to Pure Talk. For just $35 a month, you get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, more than you'll ever need, with mobile hotspot, all on one of America's most dependable 5G networks. Go to puretalk.com/Levin to make the switch. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plan when you switch to Pure Talk. Wireless by Americans for Americans. Students for Justice in Palestine is a Hamas-supporting Islamist organization funded by, among others, Qatar. Qatar is the enemy. It's a terror state. I don't care who thinks otherwise. I don't care who does business with them. None of that matters to me. A fact is a fact. And Rishi Arun at Temple University, my alma mater, on April 24, in a webinar, Hat Tip Memory, this site I tell you to bookmark, memri.org, memri.org. Cut 3, go.
We will free Mumia because it is our job to destroy imperialism, destroy the United States, and destroy capitalism and the system of extraction that it relies on to perpetuate itself. And we will do it by organizing in a manner that actively undermines and destabilizes the legitimacy and the power of the state and the power and legitimacy of capitalism.
What do you think of that? What do you think of that? This guy's a big muckety-muck in Students for Justice in Palestine. It's the enemy within. Listen to what they say. They mean it. For God's sakes, listen to what they say. They mean it. Listen to what the Islamo-Nazi regime in Tehran says. They mean it. Ignore the static about the warmongers and the neocons. The isolationists from the 1930s are back. That's them. Some of them are in government. Some of them are outside of government. It doesn't matter. The insanity that they spew. Listen to what the enemy is saying. They mean it. They hit us on 9/11. They've hit us before. They've hit our embassies. They've hit our Marine barracks. Listen to what they're saying. They've taken over our colleges and universities. They've taken over our streets. They're in Congress. They're in the media. They're here. They're right there to see and hear. We have Mohammed Khatib, the European coordinator of the Samidoun Palestine Prisoner Solidarity Network, whatever the hell that is, a U.S. and Canadian designated terror organization. A few weeks ago, on a webinar, cut 4, go.
So we see this existential connection between the Palestinian students movement and the political prisoners. So the Palestinian student, the day after of Oslo, they changed their activism from the campus to the armed struggle. If Palestine is liberated, this means this is a nail to dismantle the United States of America.
Did you hear him talk about Israel once? Did you hear him talk about the Jews once? They're talking about the United States of America, taking out the United States of America from within. That's what they're talking about. And they are here right now. They are here today. And they have special pleaders and mouthpieces in the fifth column, isolationists in this country, who are telling us, ignore the Iranian nuclear threat. Just move along. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. It's my expectation to take calls at the bottom of the hour. I don't want to rush through this. You know, people say, why do you keep talking about this all the time? Ladies and gentlemen, we're at war. Not because we're warmongers, as the morons keep saying. It's because the enemy's the warmonger. I mean, what is it going to take to understand this? You and I do. We've been hit by these people, and hard. And they want to hit us again and again. They want to annihilate us. They tell us that. They write about it. We are a society that's been put on warning more than any other society in human history by these genocidal monsters who want a nuclear weapon. And we literally have a cabal, a fifth column, that keeps attacking you and me. Small cabal, nonetheless. The influence is waning, and it's going to continue to wane as time goes on. So those who hook their little cabooses to these people, they will fail too. They will grift for a while, they will succeed for a while, and then they will collapse. I've seen this 1,000 times. I want you to listen to this guy again, Rishi Arun, Students for Justice in Palestine. This is a domestic organization with hundreds of chapters in hundreds of colleges and universities. This guy's with Temple University. They're funded by Qatar. They're funded by Hamas. The brainchild of this organization is a tenured professor on the West Coast in California. This is what's going on in our country. I want you to listen very carefully. I want you to listen to who his venom is aimed at. Aimed at. You. Cut 3. Go.
We will free Mumia because it is our job to destroy imperialism, destroy the United States, and destroy capitalism and the system of extraction that it relies on to perpetuate itself. And we will do it by organizing in a manner that actively undermines and destabilizes the legitimacy and the power of the state and the power and legitimacy of capitalism.
There you go. They sound a lot like the isolationists, the fifth column. But as I said the other day, our conservative student organized groups on college campuses need to confront this. They don't need to be yelling due process rights and free speech for terrorists and people promoting terrorism, because they don't understand due process or free speech. It's very ignorant. Now, this guy told you exactly what they're thinking. Again, the website is memory.org, MEMRI.org. They keep track of this. You won't hear this anywhere else. Not another radio show, not a podcast, not a TV show. You won't hear it anywhere else. That's why you're here. This isn't some nuanced threat. They're organized. They are funded. They are here. They've destroyed our colleges and universities. They're destroying our media. They're destroying the Democrat Party. They're even barreling in the administration to some extent. Donald Trump is fighting them every step of the way, for which he comes under attack by the Marxist wing. This is a Marxist Islamist fusion. That's what it is. I've said it over and over and over again for many years. He talks like a Marxist, and he's an Islamist. Again, Mohammed Khatib, the European coordinator of the Samidoun Palestine Prisoner Solidarity Network. When I watch TV and they say anti-Israel protests or pro-Palestinian protests, I almost throw up on my shoes. That's not what it is. These are Marxist Islamists who seek the violent overthrow of the United States of America, the evisceration of the American people, the evisceration of the state of Israel and the Israeli people. They are at war with the West. Us, you and me. You and me. They're here right now. And they've attacked us multiple times. I don't want to hear about neocons from Tulsi Gabbard. I don't want to hear about warmongers when we're the peace lovers minding our own damn business. As the 2,000 men and women in those two towers, the men and women in the Pentagon, the poor men and women on that plane in central Pennsylvania, minding their own business, provoking nobody, attacked by this enemy that now wants a nuclear weapon. How much clearer can it be, America? There are millions of you listening to me right now. Millions of you. How much clearer can it be? Some dumbass podcaster or jerk with a subscription service? Grifters? What do we give a damn what they have to say? I'm telling you what you know, what you experienced, what you saw, and who's behind it. This 9th century, really 7th century throwback Islamist, fundamentalist, terrorist regime that has taken over the country of Iran, that imprisons, tortures, and rapes its own people, that is spreading terrorism throughout the Middle East and in the United States, that has sought to assassinate our President of the United States. Those bastards want a nuclear weapon to put on an intercontinental ballistic missile to blow us up. Now, how much clearer can I be? There's not a rational argument. There's not a logical argument. There is no argument to defend that. None. The sloganeers, the isolationists, they can stick it. Are we going to be the only generation, the only American generation, that is going to willingly listen to an enemy that says they want to destroy us and allow them to destroy us? Sick. Unbelievable. Then Mohammed Khatib, the European coordinator of the Summa, they have all these names, all these groups, all this money, all this crap. But it's the same damn thing, the same damn ideology. Here he is, in America. Cut 4, go.
So we see this existential connection between the Palestinian students movement and the political prisoners. So the Palestinian student, the day after of Oslo, they changed their activism from the campus to the armed struggle. If Palestine is liberated, this means this is a nail to dismantle the United States of America.
Did you hear any words about Israel in there? You didn't hear a thing about Israel. The other guy, did you hear anything about Israel? No. The United States of America. What does this have to do with us? I don't know. What did 9/11 have to do with us? What does this have to do with it? I don't know. What did the Marine barracks have to do with us? What does this have to do with this? I don't know. Our 2 embassies that were attacked. What did that? I can go on and on and on, America. Since when has an Islamo-Nazi regime ever shown any restraint whatsoever, let alone with a nuclear weapon? They will blackmail us. They will threaten us. They will make it impossible, if our generation passes this problem to the next, for our young kids, our grandkids to live in freedom. They will make it impossible for us to decide who our allies are and who our allies aren't. We will be under constant threat, a constant dark cloud, and they will pull that trigger whenever the hell they want to. I don't need an after-the-fact commission to explain why we lost 100 million Americans. I'm telling you right now what the hell's going on. And I expect our government, all branches of our government, to step up and protect the American people. I don't want to hear weasel words. I don't want to hear politicians. I don't want to hear any of it. You protect this damn country. That is your responsibility. I don't want to hear about redistribution of wealth or this. No. You protect the American people. That's your damn job. You protect the American people from the Islamo-Nazis. You protect the American people from the communist Chinese. You protect the American people from Colonel KGB agent Putin, from that Stalinist inbred in North Korea. That's your damn job. And stop trashing the American people with your warmonger bullcrap. I've had it. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know, sloganeering is not a policy. Sloganeering is not a policy. Have you heard any rational discussion or arguments for why Iran should effectively have a nuclear weapon? They actually expect us to believe that an oil-rich country is developing nuclear power for domestic use, 350 feet in cement-protected bunkers. A brand new nuclear site was discovered, reports Fox today, that the reason they won't allow the UN inspectors on there is because they're so coveting of their proprietary energy information. Really? This is a lie. Anybody who tells you this is a liar is an appeaser. That's what they are. That's not what we need now. That's not what we want now. Save it for somebody else. I don't think some of these people understand the power of this program. I really don't. Not because of me. Because of you. I don't think they understand that you, millions and millions of you, talking to millions of others, the impact you have when you want to have impact. I don't think they understand what happened during the Tea Party revolution and your role in it, our role in it together, you and me. I don't think they get it. I don't think they understand on election night. Behind this microphone, you and me, together, making sure we turned out the vote at the 11th hour to help our president get over the finish line. I don't think they get it. I don't think they understand that not in every case, but in many cases, the impact you have on primary elections, on House elections, on Senate elections, on gubernatorial election, I don't think they get it. I don't shake in fear of any of these people in the fifth column isolationist left. Not one of them. None of them. There's too much at stake, America. Too much at stake. Slogans mean nothing to me. You even have some of these people who bring the enemy on their platforms to give them voice in our country. You know, even those who aided and abetted our enemies during World War II and other wars didn't go that far, did they? Did they? We are the people. You are Mr. and Mrs. America. We're not a small cabal. We're not a little clique. We're not ideologues that come out of some moronic institute funded by George Soros and Charles Koch. We're not interested in the fringe nut jobs and their ideological agendas. We're just Americans who think for ourselves from all walks of life. Americans, you listening to this program, from big cities, small cities, little towns, little villages, from farms, all over the country, all over the world. The reason this is one of the longest syndicated national, international shows now and ever is because of you, because we have a special relationship. I call this the National Town Hall Meeting. I don't bring on propagandists here to lie to you about the Holocaust, to lie to you about World War II, to tell you how great Hitler was and how bad Churchill is. That is insanity. They want to talk about forever wars. They want to talk about Iraq. They want to talk about Afghanistan. I want to talk about Iran, and nuclear weapons. Right now. The here and now. Now, these people think they have a big following. These people think that they represent MAGA because they proclaim it. They don't represent anybody. I don't claim to represent anybody, but you and my audience, or you wouldn't be here. When you're talking about nuclear weapons, you're not messing around, America. This is no joke. This is no joke. And anybody who gives aid and comfort to the enemy, anybody who is regurgitating and burping up the talking points of the enemy, anybody who is cavorting with the enemy, anybody who is trashing patriotic Americans, many of whom served in the military, many of whose family have served in the military, anybody who's trashing them while giving cover to the enemy is to be shamed. They're a disgrace. To one of my friends who says, why does it matter if Iran gets a nuclear weapon? You need to sober up, buddy. Why does it matter? Well, India and Pakistan have nuclear weapons. Oh, okay. Then that settles that. Great argument. That's resolved now. That has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about. Nothing to do with it whatsoever. Why do they put out pablum like this? Certainly they're smart enough to know how stupid that is, aren't they? Maybe not. I don't know. Because they become ideologues. They're tied into their own grift. They have these little niches for themselves. They actually think they're powerful, that they're righteous. They're not powerful, and they're not righteous. If we unleash the power of this program, and I'm getting pretty damn close to it, if we unleash millions of Americans, then they'll know where you, the American people, stand. They'll know where you stand. I'll be right back.
This is the home of America's founding. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
I have a huge treat for you. Here's the treat. The president of Haverford College, who is another phony, fraud, and fake, and Elise Stefanik. I want you to listen to this, and hopefully she will run for governor of New York, and we are going to back her big time. Cut 5, go.
Is calling for the genocide of Jews protected speech on your campus, starting with Haverford?
No, of course not.
And what disciplinary action has been taken or would be taken if someone made that call?
Representative, there have been no such calls, and we would use all of our disciplinary actions to follow through on any such call. I would never expect that to happen at Haverford, and if it would, we would deal with that swiftly.
Well, let me ask you a specific question then. There was a student group on Haverford's campus who called for the complete dismantling of the apartheid settler colonial state of Israel by all means necessary. What does by all means necessary mean to you?
Invoking that kind of terminology is repugnant because of what it can mean, and I will not.
So does that depend on the context?
I will not defend that statement.
So what disciplinary action was taken against that group or those individuals who made that call? Any disciplinary action? Was there any disciplinary action taken against that group or those individuals?
Those kinds of statements are...
I'm not asking you if they're
Very
repugnant.
challenging.
I'm asking about the disciplinary action. You were the one university president who failed to lay out if any disciplinary action has been taken, if any suspensions or expulsions. So I am asking you, was there any disciplinary action taken?
Disciplinary action can include expulsion and...
I'm not asking what it can include. I'm asking, was it taken?
I will not be talking about individual cases here, and I'm saying that is...
So have there been any disciplinary actions taken by Haverford related to anti-Semitism? Any?
Disciplinary actions are absolutely in our work.
Have they been taken?
Against anti-Semitism.
Have they been taken by Haverford?
Yes, there have been some.
But you won't explain them. Cut 6, go.
I want to ask you another example. There was a professor of mathematics and statistics who posted after the October 7th Hamas terrorist attacks, quote, "We should never have to apologize for celebrating these scenes of an imprisoned people breaking free from their chains. This was a historic moment to be recorded in their history books." Jewish students have reported that you said this post could be, quote, "perceived in many ways." Does this post simply depend on the context, President Rabin? And were there any disciplinary actions taken against this professor?
Such posts have been incredibly harmful to our entire community, and I disavow them and that outcome for us.
Was there an investigation of the professor?
Investigations happen in all such cases.
So yes, in this case.
Investigations happen in all such cases, as I have said. And we follow.
This is a simple question. The other presidents are answering this straightforward as to disciplinary action. Again, these university presidents who are former presidents fail to answer these direct questions. In this case, was there disciplinary action taken or an investigation of this professor?
Respectfully, Representative, I will not be talking about individual cases.
Respectfully, President of Haverford, many people have sat in this position who are no longer in the positions as president of universities for their failure to answer straightforward questions.
I love this lady's unbelievable. I love what she does here. Fantastic. Cut 7, go.
Another question I have, because this is a theme at Haverford, there was an administrator who said that, quote, "racial minority students have never felt safe at Haverford, and that Jewish prospective students should not expect to feel safe and should instead be brave." This was according to litigation against your college. Was there any investigation into this administrator for making those statements?
That report does not reflect the administrators that I know who stand strongly with me and the entire college against anti-Semitism.
So that didn't happen, is your position? Was that statement not made by that administrator?
That statement does not comport with those administrators that I know.
I'm not asking if it comports with the administrators that you know. I'm saying, is it your testimony that that statement did not happen, even though it's coming out in litigation? So are you saying it did not happen?
What I am saying is that I cannot imagine that happening from those colleagues of mine.
Well, let me ask you, if it did happen, what disciplinary action would Haverford take against that administrator?
At Haverford, we do not tolerate discrimination or harassment or bias.
And what does that mean, not tolerate? Does that mean suspension, firing of that individual? What does that mean?
It means following all of our policies, which begin with investigation and then can lead to any of the aspects that you listed.
For the American people watching, you still don't get it. Haverford still doesn't get it. It's a very different testimony than the other presidents who are here today who are coming with specifics. So again, this is completely unacceptable, and it's why this committee has stepped in, because higher education has failed to address the scourge of anti-Semitism, putting Jewish students at risk at Haverford and other campuses across the country. I yield back.
She would have been a great ambassador to the United Nations, don't you think, Mr. Producer? She'd be a great Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, Director of National Intelligence. Don't you think, Mr. Producer? A great Vice President? I think she'd be an outstanding president. I really do. And not just because of this issue. Not just because of this issue. She would let the left have it, and the Democrats have it, the bureaucracy and the media have it. She wants to be governor of New York. We will do everything we can to support her. She will be on Life, Liberty, and Levin Saturday night, first guest, and she'll have more revelations about that hearing. Apparently that president of Haverford came in with note cards where she was told to smile and things of that sort. But she's fantastic, and she'll be fantastic on the show. Katie Pavlich is unbelievable, too. You know, we have strong conservative women. Yes, we do. And by the way, they're women, and they know how to define what a woman is. Our women versus the women on the left, there's no comparison. Ours are more powerful and better, hands down. I know I'm married to one. There's simply no question about it, in my view. That is a fantastic representative, who I hope will be governor of New York and the move beyond that. We shall see, and we will watch her career, and we will support her career. And that's how it's done. No mealy-mouthed BS, straightforward, good versus evil, right versus wrong. No tolerance for Jew hatred and anti-Semitism. No tolerance for American hatred. No tolerance for taking over our colleges and universities. I imagine the fifth column isolationists don't much care for her. They probably back the president of Haverford. I'm just guessing. Because they're cowards. They're punks who've contributed nothing to this country while they attack our military, while they attack the wars that we have fought. Great men and women in this country have volunteered their lives, put them on the line. They claim to represent them while they trash our company and pretend they're American firsters when they're American lasters. We've seen their ilk. We've seen their type. It was called the 1930s. Except they're worse, as I've said before. Because the fools in the 1930s who openly rejected what they stood for after we were attacked at Pearl Harbor, they didn't have the knowledge, the history of the 1940s. These fools today do. And yet they'd still drag us into a nuclear war with an Islamo-Nazi regime. Yes, they would. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine, the men and women in Israel, and you, the American people. Thank God for each and every one of you. I am blessed to have you here, and we'll do this again tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening.